Have you ever had that word from God and have yet to see it happen? Welcome to the next episode of Be Still and Build. This series is for those of us who are kingdom builders. So basically that means building something for the kingdom of God, something that God has put on your heart or in your hands to do, whether you're currently doing it or you're on your way to doing something that you've been called to do. This is for you. So I'm currently walking through building for the kingdom of God, and I haven't fully seen everything that God has promised, but I have learned some things along the way, and I'm learning things along the way that I want to share. And so I thought, what a great way to be able to share this with people who are probably also going through the same thing. And you guys can also teach me some things and give me some input so that I can learn and be better and have some pointers on how to walk this out, because it's kind of a doozy sometimes. But anyway, it's almost May and I haven't done an episode yet, so I need to hurry this up before the end of the month, because I said to myself I'm going to do an episode every month. I put a post up asking what the next topic should be for this series, and one of the responses was on David, the story of David. And I thought, this is such a good topic because I've also been very focused on the life of David. And so I thought I would focus this episode on that. So the main thought is, have you ever had something that God put on your heart, which I'm sure most of you have, but have you ever had that word from God and have yet to see it happen? Like, you heard a word and in that moment you knew that it was God, but years, months have passed by, days have passed by, and you haven't seen anything yet. I'm sure that many of you, if not all of you, have experienced that. And you're not alone, because David experienced that. I'm going to give it very briefly, but the story of David is basically, his story, I believe, starts in 1 Samuel 16. And David, living a very normal life, he was a shepherd, but very chill life, watching the sheep, gets one day the prophet Samuel comes to his home and basically says, hey, God has decided to anoint you as the king of Israel. Now, there's a king currently. There's already one in place, and nobody really knows how long the current king would be on the throne, who was King Saul. And in that moment, the Spirit of the Lord fell powerfully upon David. And so it's this is obvious that this is God, right? And then David goes right back to normal life. He doesn't get put as king right away. This is not what God does. King Saul stays king, and David goes back to his regular, 9 to 5. And I cannot imagine what was going through David's mind at the time, because he's probably okay, when is this going to happen, And God makes it happen, right? There are a lot of, if you read the story, it goes on chapters. There's I don't even know off the top of my head what chapter the story ends, but of when he becomes king. But there's a lot that happens in the middle, and there's a lot of twists and turns things that David has to deal with King Saul, and that probably made him fearful and made him think that it would never happen the way that God said. But God made a way. He made it happen. And I think that what I want to like touch on today, and something that God has been dealing with me on too, is if God has called you to something, or he is like, yeah, he's given you a word or something, it's not for you to make it happen. You will not have to prove to anyone or to yourself that God has called you. You will not have to prove anything to yourself or to anyone else, because God will do it. I mean, David was back, he went back to normal life. King Saul was on the throne. A spirit was sent to King Saul from God to like torment Saul because of his disobedience. That's other stuff. But he needed someone to play to help him relax. And David, if you don't know, he was a minister of music. He was like, oh, he was a worshiper, and God saw that. And King Saul sent for them to find someone that could play for him. We know a guy that is the son of Jesse that could play. He's great at playing the lyre. We could go get him. And King Saul's like, yeah, go get that guy. Turns out that it's David. They go and they get David to bring him to the palace, to play for King Saul. That's actually wild. Only God could do that. Only God could make that happen. So David didn't have to do anything. And there are like a series of events after that where God would just do it for David. He would prove it to David over and over again. And there are moments too where David is mistreated, he's misunderstood. Saul becomes fearful of David in the middle of it. Like, all of these things start happening where David could have had an opportunity to get rid of Saul. Like, he had moments where it was like the perfect moment to just get rid of him. You know what I mean? And David said, no, that's not my place. That's up to God, but he knew in his heart that that God had called him, and God would make a way. He wouldn't have to lay a finger on Saul. And I think that's just so, that's so evident of how much, it just proves how much David trusted God and where his heart really, really, truly was, that it had really nothing to do with what God had called him to. It wasn't really about the throne. David just wanted to be near God. He just wanted to be pleasing to God. And that's just so encouraging. So where I'm going with this is, if God has called you to do something and you haven't seen it yet, don't get discouraged, and don't make the mistake of trying to do it in your own strength or in your own understanding. Let God handle it, because he will. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that that's God saying no. It's God developing you. He's developing your character. While you're building something, God is building you. And there are things that you need to learn, and myself included, that you need to learn it before that comes to pass, before what God has promised you comes to pass. So let it happen. Let God work in the meantime until that day, because that day will come. And I'm saying that for myself too. Trust God. Wait patiently and let him build you while you build. Stay planted while God is building your character. And you will get there. you will arrive. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.